stop you right there. Also, why are you doing this and not my manager? You just have these little 10-minute, 15-minute meetings, tell someone that they're fired.
I was angry, because it's such a large order and we have to take so much out of our time.
I go back in after my lunch and then she pretty much tells me that I'm fired.
I feel like I'm getting fired every day.
And I've made a video in the beginning about how I had a hard time with some of the women when I first started.
Somehow I got sick during my interview. Finally get my training done and I'm in the classroom. And
Hey guys, welcome back to More to Life. Now, before I get into this video, I ask that you like, comment, subscribe. Also, smash that notification bell just to be sure you get on my videos as soon as I release them. Let's get right into this.
Decided to part ways with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there. Also, why are you doing this and not my manager? We've never met, so this seems a little odd that my manager has no idea that this has been happening and the director has no idea that this has been happening. So I'm just definitely confused and I would love an explanation that makes sense. Also, every single one-on-one I've had with my manager, every conversation I've had with him, he has been giving me nothing but I am doing a great job, I have had great activity, I have really great meetings. So I disagree that my performance hasn't been I haven't met performance expectations, and it must be very easy for you to just have these little 10-minute, 15-minute meetings, tell someone that they're fired, completely wreck their whole life, and then that's it with no explanation. It just doesn't make any sense that you guys have still not been able to give me a reason why I'm being let go.
Just from a process perspective, your questions are valid. This isn't going to be the forum and the situation where we're able to go into the detail that you're looking for.
But then when? If it's not right as I'm getting fired, then it's certainly not going to be after when I'm no longer part of the company.
So I don't think there's anything we can say in this moment or today, Brittany, that's going to change the way that you feel. And it's understandable. I'm taking notes and feedback, and we'll circle back.
Yeah, I know you did that for Nestle too, but that's
of the meeting. It's not going to change the outcome of the situation today, so it may be best if I do get into more of the specifics of what the next steps are, because I think it's clear that you have questions that we cannot give answers to, and if you'd be open to it, I'd love to move into what the next steps are so that you're not any further blindsided than you already feel.
Man, that's hard when you lose a job that way. And that's all they're saying to you is we can't get into particulars right now, but I'll tell you this. I worked in a job a while ago. I left there in 2012. And that was like my last real job. Every job I had after that was online. And that's the reason why I left. What I kept seeing, I lasted 7 years, but I kept seeing so many people in and out. It was just a revolving door. And I seen ladies, guys, people of all ages just coming in and out. And I was a salesperson. Same thing. And it says right here, we fired 40 salespeople out of 1,500. I've seen so many people coming out of the door. After a while, once I got out of that and I moved to the Philippines, I said, I need to get away from that completely. It took me a while before I did, but I'm finally out of it because that's a hard thing to keep up with, making sure you get a job. It feels like that. You're full depressed, so I understand.
Her job over a takeout order.
I'm mad, yes, because I am a hard worker, a dedicated worker. I've been doing the service industry for 10 years. It's what I love to do.
A local church ordered $735 worth of food that she had to prepare.
25 steaks, 25 potatoes, 25 chickens.
When people from the church came to pick up the food, Tamlin loaded all the entrees into the car. Then church members left her high and dry with no tip.
I was angry, because it's such a large order and we have to take so much out of our time. It took almost an hour to put everything together.
The church quickly became aware of the situation and called the restaurant to make things right. The next day, when Tamlin showed up for work, she got a pink slip.
That's why now they add in, they've been doing it for a while. I'm surprised that her restaurant doesn't do that. But that's why if the bill is a certain amount, they usually add in your tip. say if it's $100, your tip may be like almost $10 or something like that. But they add in, the right amount. And even when because I was a server before, even when I didn't get a tip, I never said anything about it. That is like the number one rule. You don't complain about not getting a tip. You just keep your mouth shut. That's how I learned. I was a server for many years, and I did very well. And I just didn't complain. I kept my mouth shut. So her complaining to churchgoers, especially, I would have just said, "Okay, I didn't get the tip. I'll get the next one. It'll come back to you later."
I worked 107 hours, and only 4 of those counted for overtime. And they just fired me, saying that I do not know how to utilize time, and that time is being wasted. But the best part is that the owners couldn't even do it themselves. They had this new girl from our competitor come in and fire me, and that's it. And they said, you can't come back. And I have gotten them over 120 clients in the past couple of months, and I'm done. Like, I'm not allowed to go back. And that was the reason, which is not true at all. I'm so angry, and it was because I asked them to give their employees a $1 raise. Apparently that's me stirring the pot. So I'm not happy right now. And I told them that I wanted to meet with them in person. So that's going to happen, and we'll see how it goes, because I'm bringing all of the numbers with me.
I just got fired from my job for being sick. I got hired on March 7th. Somehow I got sick during my interview, and I brought home a virus. Told them I wasn't going to be there. I finally get my training done, and I'm in the classroom, and I get a stomach bug. This is like a week and a half.
Why didn't you do the video over?
My point exactly.
She just burped.
And a half after I got over the cold. At this point, I'm pissing out. So I told them I can't come to work. I'm on the toilet. After the stomach bug, I caught a head cold. And these were like
No excuses.
back to back to back. There was literally a couple of days in between each of these sicknesses. I have a head cold now, and I have a fever. Can't go to work. In between all of this, me getting sick, I had 2 court hearings that I had to be there for. That should have been excused. I finally get over the head cold, and I get a cold, which I have right now. So then on Tuesday, I called out because I had a fever. I was really sick. I get called to go to HR's office, and she terminates me for my attendance.
Yeah, you got attended because you were a risk. Look, when you get sick, right? People go to work sick. I would get colds. I would go to work. Now, they probably warned her. They warned her. I'm sure they did. You just started a job, too, and you're already calling out late and sick. She wondered why she got fired.
This is me after getting fired from my job.
I wonder why.
I'm so upset. I thought I had cried all I could cry yesterday, but clearly there's still more. And I know it sounds so bad when I'm like, oh, I'm getting fired, which, yes, technically I did get let go. But it's not like in a bad, mean way. Like, I still really like my managers and all the people that work there. And it was just a genuine mistake on my behalf. But I also understand them as a company. Like, they're a company. It doesn't matter how much they like you or anything. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a company, so they have to run their company the way that they see fit. And I did major. I didn't show up to an opening shift. And that's huge. It's not like there were other servers there. Like, I was gonna be the server, and there was no server there for an hour, basically, until the next one came in. So I get it. But it's still so upsetting. It's so upsetting because I really like this job. And even right now, the conversation that I had with my manager, it was such a good conversation. And he's super cool, and he was like, whatever you need, if you do need reference, put me down, I got you. He's like, it was hard for him to process too what was gonna happen, because he knew it was gonna happen, but he didn't want it to happen either. Which I appreciate so much. Like, obviously that's what you want to hear, right? When you're gonna leave a place. But it just had to be let go. But I get it and I understand it. And there's no bad blood. Like, there's no beef between me and my job or anything, like, or my old job. But I really am just so upset. I feel really comfortable here. And having to go start new, it's like scary. Because nothing is for certain, you know? So when you're just somewhere and you're comfortable and you feel kind of settled, like, you feel good. But nothing is ever certain. Like, not even your job that you're comfortable and settled in. It's never for certain. I'm so upset.
This may have been the push that I needed to move on and do something more with my life, you know? Because I always said that this would just be a transition, that I wasn't going to stay here. And then I kind of just did, and then I wasn't concerned with really looking anywhere else. I was comfortable here.
Yeah, that's the number one no. Don't get too comfortable. This life, woo, it has surprises. And now, what she said, the reason why she was fired, I don't think she should be crying as much. I mean, I'm not trying to say she shouldn't feel sorry for herself, yes, but I wouldn't record myself crying on video if I was to cry. But also, not even that. You were the opening server. Yes, that is horrible. I can imagine I'm on the floor as a manager and then there's no service. As a manager, I was a server before. I'm sure that manager was. He had to do the work, but I'm sure he was dreading doing the work. And they couldn't wait to fire you. You knew it was coming. You should have known you were getting fired, but hey, that's what happens.
So I was fired today and wanted to come on because I feel like, number one, this happens to a lot of people, and I was really blindsided by it. The reason I wanted to come on, number one, is because I feel like this happens to a lot of people, and it's like shocking and a lot to process. You know, you work for a company with people for a long time, and then to like just get a Zoom, or like, this was like a random meeting put on my calendar and it only showed like my manager on it. I didn't know like the HR person was gonna be on too, and then they just like said it very kind of coldly and then they just read out like the severance stuff and just said like, you know, it's your last day, effective immediately, and then just like log off, and you're just kind of like, what is happening? And I think the problem for me is, so they said it was because of a conflict of interest, and essentially at the start of the year, my husband, who worked at the same company as me at the time, he quit because he didn't, you know, he wanted to pursue other things. And at the time, I remember them being really pissed about it because my husband is really good at his job. He's really good at sales, and they just kind of lost this really great salesperson. So they were blindsided by him leaving. And then one day randomly, my manager called me. He was like, you know, how's it going? You know, normal conversation. And then he goes onto, like, completely blindsides me, and he's like, so where's Tanner going? And I'm like, I don't know, like he's just figuring out what he wants to do. We have a couple of rental properties, and I was like, he's gonna work on like managing them, and yeah, like I don't know, that was like it. I just said he's doesn't know what he wants to do yet. He just wants to change like what he's doing. And then he's like, well, you know, if he ever works at one of our competitors, then that's good, and you guys live in the same household, that's going to be a real problem. And I'm like, okay. It was just a really uncomfortable situation, and I felt like my job was being threatened at the time. So I get off the call, tell Tanner about it, and he's like, he didn't have, you know, the balls to ask me directly about what I'm doing, like no questions about it to him when they had a conversation on the phone. But he'll go to my wife and try to get information out of her. So that just set him off. So we reported that to HR, had a conversation about it, and yeah, I mean, it was fine, moved on. I like reviewed the handbook and everything, and it didn't say anything about like, you know, family or spouse working at another company. So flash forward to like April, May, and Tanner came out on LinkedIn and said he's working at this adjacent company now, and I'm guessing that's what set them off, because I got let go because of a conflict of interest. And it's because my husband works at a competitor company. My husband, not even me. And I'm just trying to process this. So like I went back to the handbook, and they added that your family cannot work at a competitor. Your family cannot work at a competitor. What?
Anyway, besides that fact, right? That's your husband, and you shouldn't have said anything. If I were you, I would have never said a word. Maybe if they would have blindsided you after that, yeah, that would have been on them. But you brought it up to their attention through your husband. You went to HR. You getting fired was on you, because your husband, you brought it to him. It became your problem. Why did you do that? Don't do that.
Hey guys, I need to put this out here because I'm so confused and I don't understand. I just started a new job, okay? And I've been training on call center or whatever, and I've been doing great. I was doing amazing. And then today, I work in a full service salon, by the way. Well, maybe. And then today, I was training with the assistants on the hair floor. And everything was going okay, but everything I was doing was wrong for them. And I was just like, sorry, my boyfriend called me. But anyway, everything I was doing was like apparently wrong. And that's fine, okay? I'm learning. That's cool. I took what they said and I changed what I was doing. But then like, it was just literally every little thing. I started cutting these strips, and I was literally left alone for like 30 minutes standing in the same position cutting these wax strips, okay? No supervision or whatever. And then a stylist comes over after 30 minutes like, oh, these are all wrong. Like, they're too thick. Like, I can't use them. And I was just like, okay. And I changed the way I was cutting them. I started making them thinner. And then the lady who was training me comes back over, is like, oh, no, like, this is no good, it's no good, and, like, starts taking everything away from me. It's like, yeah, like, you just won't do this anymore, like, you're just not good at it. And I was just like, okay, like, I just need to go to the bathroom real quick. So I go to the bathroom, and as I'm going to the bathroom, you know, I can't really breathe too well, but it's okay. People ask me if I'm okay. I'm like, yeah, like, I'm okay. Like, I just have a little bit of anxiety. Like, I'll be fine. Like, people asking me makes it worse, bro. And so I go to the bathroom, and then I have people knocking on the bathroom door over me, and leave me alone. I am okay. So then I go and take my lunch so I can just, like, get myself together. My boss calls me, is like, hey, like, what happened? Like, I was like, hey, like, you know, I just got a little bit, like, overwhelmed or whatever, and everyone was really worried about me, but I'm okay. Like, I'm okay. I'm fine.
And then she's like, okay, like, when you come back in, like, you can just go to the call center or go train, with Michael, which is the guy who got me hired here. And I was like, okay, cool, like, that's fine. I go back in after my lunch, and then she pretty much tells me that I'm fired. Like, what? What are you talking about? How are you gonna call me on my lunch break and tell me that everything's okay and I can just work in the call center today or train with Michael, and then I go inside and you fire me? What? Apparently she just doesn't think it's a good environment for me. Like, bro, I am fine. I can handle it. I just got a little overwhelmed for a second. Like,
Are you sure about that?
what? Like, am I crazy right now? Or was that, like, normal? I don't get it. Like, what?
Don't record a video right after you get fired. I can tell she got fired today, probably 10 minutes ago. I mean, if you wanted to people to see the theatrics, it was real. I believe her. And it was a little messed up. I'm not lying. It was a little messed up. But that's what's happening in this day and age. People don't care. They saw your problems you're having. They're taking it as, hey, you can't handle, because there's going to be, you can't handle what we're doing, because there's going to be a lot more situations that's going to make you anxious, and you need to be able to adjust. And it's sad, but it's like that with many companies. They don't want to see a person suffering with something like that, like anxiety. They see that as major. They see that as you possibly missing more days of work because of it, you calling in sick because of it, or they probably just didn't want it. Is it wrong? A little bit, but that's the way it is.
I feel like I might get fired today. I mean, I feel like I'm getting fired every day because I have anxiety, but like, you know, I'm getting ready today's Speed Racer edition. I have 12 minutes before I have to leave. I literally hate being late to work, and I feel like I've been late a lot.
Oh, accountability.
Honestly, like, I had to get talked to by my boss. I had this one internship a few summers ago where my boss was like legit psychotic. Like, he was crazy. He would like yell at you for doing one tiny thing wrong in front of everyone there. Well, that was like so the time. I just like don't make mistakes at work anymore. I mean, I do, but I solve them before anyone finds out, you know. But if I do make mistakes, I'm like very hyper aware of them, and so like me being late, I'm just like, thank you. That's okay. I like definitely am not getting fired, but I always feel like any small mistake I make is gonna be the end of the world. And honestly, I'm really lucky to have like a workplace where like everybody's pretty chill, like for the most part. Actually, this is like the chillest place I've ever worked. I've almost worked here for a year, but I'm still kind of getting used to like how chill and nice everybody is when you make a mistake. And by everybody, I mean my boss. Like literally, Emma, if you see this, I love you. I feel like other than my boss now, I've only had one other like good boss. Oh my god, I also had this crazy manager at Olive Garden.
Now give me one reason why I shouldn't fire you.
Who like people literally thought she was on drugs because she was so psychotic. Like, I also worked at a crystal shop where people literally told me that my manager like worked with the fae in the store, and the fae would tell her if like we at work or if we did anything at work, which like partially I know that bitch was intuitive, so like I knew like something would tell her, but I was like, wait, y'all like really feel like there's cameras watching you all the time? Like, that's crazy. They were legit like scared of her. Whatever. Anyway, I'm just so anxious about being late all the time. I'm supposed to leave in 4 minutes, and all I have to do is put on lashes. I might be okay. I don't know though, because there's probably gonna be traffic. Also, like the whole late thing, I used to be so on time to everything. I actually used to be like very chronically early. I really don't know what changed. I honestly miss that feeling of being early to everything, because if you're anxious about it, at least you're anxious in the car or in the parking lot or like where you need to be, instead of anxious like in traffic or something. Can you stop? I'm gonna fix my lashes in the car. I have to go, but I love you guys. Bye.
Man, that's how it starts, right? First, you're anxious that you might be late, then you're fired. Hopefully, she makes it.
So this is going to be a story time of how I got fired from my job because of my mental illness. So I have generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and depression. And for anyone who has those conditions, they would know that those disorders are no joke. They really can affect your life tremendously, and that includes your work life. So very recently, I got a job as a barista. And anyone who's ever been a barista knows that while the tasks itself is simple, like just like making coffee and lattes, and it can also be an extremely stressful job. And while working at a fast-paced environment and having a lot of customers would be stressful towards anyone, imagine what it's like for someone who literally has a disorder that makes them worry about everything. And in addition, because of my obsessive compulsive disorder, I was doing a lot of checking. For anyone who doesn't know, checking is a compulsion that a lot of people with OCD do. So for example, every single time I made a drink, I had to ask for reassurance if I did this right from one of my coworkers. We would also have the recipes in the counter and I would have to check them every single time. And that's not to say that I didn't know how to make the drinks. It's just that I was oh my god, sorry, I just burped. So worried of being wrong, even though I could be 99% sure I made a drink right, there is still a 1% of me where I could be wrong, and that makes me extremely anxious. So to relieve my anxiety, I'll check to make sure I got it right, whether that's from asking a coworker or checking the recipe book myself. Within a month of me working that job, my boss decided to pull me aside and ask me how has working there been so far. He says that he's noticed me asking for reassurance from my coworkers all the time and constantly checking the recipes, so maybe he thinks that I'm not getting it. And that's when I told him the truth. I told him that I have struggles with anxiety, and in order to relieve my anxiety, I have to do this checking behavior. And I don't know why, but I have never told my employer about my mental illness before. And because I've never talked about my mental illness in a professional setting, that made me anxious again, and then I started having an anxiety attack in front of him. After I had my anxiety attack in front of him, he sent me home early, which I really appreciated. And then the next day, I got this text. Pause to read. So I've asked him for specific accommodations because of my mental illness, and he basically said no because that would be unfair to the other staff. And also because of my mental illness, I'll be putting more pressure on them. So yeah, now I'm unemployed.
You shouldn't work there. That's all I have to say about that. Like, you just told your boss you had a problem. Then you had an anxiety attack and showed him. Yeah, you probably shouldn't be working there. That place was too busy for you. And he was right. He take it as kindness. It could have been worse. He said, hey, I can't have her here. He seen it was a constant problem. It was a problem for you checking the recipes over and over. He let you go. Take it in stride.
I just got let go of my job. I've been working through this company for about 4 months now. I've been on probation, and I've made a video in the beginning about how I had a hard time with some of the women when I first started. It seemed like they didn't like
TikTok. TikTok indeed.
my image, who I was, and they tried to sabotage my job in the beginning, and I had to really fight for it. You're put on probation for the first 3 months, so because of that and these people making up stuff about me using my phone and going off for periods of time, which was not true, they extended my probation another month. But the meeting that we had talking about it, they said that they had no issue with my work. It was these issues that people had brought up, and they wanted to just make sure that they weren't true and that my work that I've been doing, because they did say that I do good work, was going to continue, so they just wanted to extend it another month. I just got a call from the temp agency that put me there saying that they're not going to keep me. I don't know why stuff like this keeps happening. I work so hard. I've barely been late, and the only time I took off was to go see my mom because she had surgery and was sick last week.
Stop making videos or something.
And I even asked my supervisor if taking that time off would affect my job, and he went to HR and asked, and he came back and said no, it wouldn't affect it. I also asked him at the same time, which was last week, if the extension of probation was still going well and if he had any issues that I needed to improve on, and he said no, that I was doing good. I feel like the HR person has had an issue with me from the beginning because of my image. You know, when you just have that feeling, because she talked about some of my clothes. I'm the only one that I've seen there with tattoos. I'm the only recovering addict that I know of. And it's a warehouse, so that's unusual. I don't think that there was anything more I could have done. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know why. I'm sorry for crying, but I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Damn. And she's one of the ones that thinks it's okay to have tattoos on a job, tattoos on her face. It's sad, man. It's sad what's happening nowadays because a lot of women are not taking accountability, and jobs see that, and you have to bite the bullet. You have to bite the bullet or continue to go through it because at some time you got to realize it's definitely more to life than not being like that and not facing accountability. Thank y'all for watching. See you next video.